Well, good morning, everybody. My name's James. I'm the candidate coach. It's great to be with you this morning. And just to start off with a very special happy birthday to Anna. I hope you're watching and I hope you have a great day today. Well, today's a bit of a different session. Often with our other sessions, we're focusing on one part of the recruitment process or one part of the process that you need to do really, really well to get a job. So if you've attended any of our webinars so far this month, we've looked at resumes, we've done cover letters, we've had a couple of sessions on how to really perform well and stand out at interview. We've talked about LinkedIn profiles too. But today we're actually going to go through just some tips. What are some of the really small things that can actually make a really big difference when you're looking for work, particularly when it's a competitive marketplace? So the title of today is Job Hunting Tips in a Competitive Marketplace. Now, many of you might have heard throughout the media recently that the unemployment level in Australia is quite low, and it's actually quite challenging for some employers to find the staff that they're looking for. Even in times where it is challenging for companies and organizations to find the staff they want, job hunting for you as the job seeker is still very, very competitive. So I want to remove the myth that finding work is easy, because finding a new job is never easy. Even for someone who's highly skilled, highly qualified, highly sought after, the recruitment process is still very, very competitive. And you can't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on your laurels at all. And this is a big mistake that I see a lot of well-performing employees make, is they think that because they've been a great employee, that when they go for a job, that will somehow transfer and they will just automatically get the position. That is certainly not the case. So today, it's all about job hunting tips in a competitive marketplace. Alrighty, so let's get stuck in just with a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. If I look like I'm looking over here a bit today, that's my presentation screen. So workshop housekeeping. If I do drop off the line for any reason, please stay on the line. I broadcast 2 or 3 times a week, so over 100 workshops a year, and just occasionally something doesn't work and I get kicked off. So if I do fall off the line, please stay and I will jump back on. Ask questions using the comments box if you're watching on one of our partner sites. If you're watching on our Facebook channel, we can't see your questions today, but if you're on our partner sites, please type in your questions. Take lots of notes as you're going along, and you can also watch a replay of today's workshop. So we're coming to you live via our YouTube channel, and all of our workshops are automatically recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. So you can watch them on replay or on repeat as many times as you like. You can share it with a friend. You can come back in a month's time and watch it again. And likewise with all of our other workshops, you can watch those too. Okay, so just a little bit about me to start off with. So I'm a director at Smart Recruitment and I've been here since 2005. And in that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews and 600 group assessments and placed over 1,000 people into work. So that's my background. At Smart, we focus on a lot of roles where interview behavior, soft skills, presentation, communication are the key. So I've had a lot of experience in helping candidates who maybe don't have the best resume or maybe don't have the best experience, but through coaching and guidance, guess what? They've been able to get the job. And we launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today, in 2019. So today I want to give you 10 job hunting tips in a competitive market. It's not going to be a long workshop today, probably be 10 to 20 minutes, but there's some really good tips here for you to do, for you to follow. And if you follow them, they might make all the difference. They might make all the difference. Let's pretend you have applied for a job today and you're one of 100 candidates. That is competitive. Let's say you get through to the phone interview stage. You might be now one of 25. That's still very competitive. Let's say you get to the face-to-face interview stage. You might be one of 8. And you might be thinking, hey, I'm down to one of 8. I've done really well. Guess what? You have done really well. However, if you're down to the last 8, all of those 8 candidates are doing really, really well. You know, the quality is very, very high. Maybe you get through to the second round of interview. By this stage, you're probably in the top 3 or 4. And again, it's becoming more and more competitive. So the longer you go in the recruitment process with a particular role, it actually gets more competitive as you're going along. So just one or two little tiny things here or there, things perhaps that you haven't realized, but you might realize today, can make a big impact and can help you perform well and stand out in a competitive market. Okay, so tip number 1 is find a connection. Find a connection and use your network. So if you are applying for a job, do you know anyone that works where you are applying? Do you know anybody at all at that organization? Are you connected with anybody on LinkedIn? LinkedIn is probably the best place to start here. Jump on LinkedIn, do a search. If you're applying for a role, find out if there's anybody in your network there. Is there anybody in your network at that organization? Or is there anybody in your network that used to work at that organization? Because if you can find a connection, particularly somebody that is working there at the moment, then you can use that to your advantage. You can use that person to help you maybe facilitate an introduction. That person saying to the hiring manager, hey, I know Tony, he's going to apply for the job. We're connected on LinkedIn, or we've spoken a few times. That could be enough of a competitive advantage to get you ahead of the other candidates. So find a connection. If you don't have a connection, go out and make one. Connect with some people in that organization. If you can draw a link to somebody that you know who works within the organization, that often does carry weight. So tip 1, find a connection, use your network, use the connection. All right, tip number 2, use people's names predominantly in the cover letter, but anywhere else throughout the recruitment process. So when you say somebody's name to them, it suggests several things. First of all, it suggests you've been listening. It suggests you've been paying attention. So when I'm speaking to a candidate on the telephone and they say, thank you, James, or that's a good question, James, or James, do you mind me asking? I know that they're paying attention. So when you're interacting with somebody, when you're looking for work, try to use their name. It can be really hard at first because if someone calls you and say, hey, can we speak about a job? My name's Tom. Your mind just hears job, interview. You might forget that person's name. So write it down, but use that person's name throughout the conversation. It's a psychological, it's not a trick, but it's a psychological trait that will help that other person feel that you are attentive to them. But also definitely use someone's name in the cover letter. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be the name of the person whose name is on the advertisement. But again, if you know anybody else at the organization, and this is really particularly pertinent for graduates going for graduate roles. If you've been to, say, a graduate careers fair and you've met someone from a company, write down their name. When you're then putting your cover letter together, use that person's name. Put their name. At the careers fair, I met with John Brown. He told me this about working for you. Show that you've been paying attention. Use somebody's name in your cover letter. Use their name in conversation. Use it outside of just looking for work. Use your friend's name. Use your partner's name. If you're trying to impress anybody, if you're trying to sell anything, use somebody's name. It shows you pay attention and they warm to you. Don't go over the top. Don't use it in every sentence, but show you know who they are. It helps to boost their ego, and we all like that. All right, tip number 3, have an achievements-based resume. Now, this is a really big point, and those of you who have been to my workshops earlier last week, I think we did resumes, you know how important I think having achievements on your resume is. We are not going to go through a whole resume workshop today. I'll be running one again in 2 weeks' time, which you can come and see, or you can go and watch our previous resume workshops. But you need to have achievements on your resume, because often when you're applying for a job, and particularly when you're getting down to the interview stage, most people have the same qualifications. If you're applying for a graduate job, everyone has the same qualifications. But most people have the same qualifications, and a lot of people have the same experience. So your achievements make you stand out. We will look at a lot of resumes this week from people that have worked at McDonald's, for example. Wonderful organization to get some experience. I love it when I see a candidate that's worked for a couple of years at McDonald's. But if I'm looking at 50 resumes from 50 people that all worked at McDonald's, the ones that are actually going to stand out are the ones who have got strong achievements on their resume. because everybody who's been working there's pretty much done the same thing. I actually know what you've done in your role at McDonald's, but your achievements on your resume, they tell me how well you did it. And that's what we're looking for here, is not how what you actually did, but we want to know how well did you do it. So going to go back to that, have achievements on your resume and have what we call an achievements-based resume. Your resume is a sales document. It needs to sell you. All right, tip number 4, show what you know about the company and this is a really good tip, and the industry. We want to recruit people who really show that they want to work for us. So show what you know about the company, but if you want to take it to the next level and be super impressive, show what you know about the industry. Show what you know about the industry, and that will really stand out. You need to do a lot of research. If you want to impress in a competitive process, you need to do a lot of research. You need to do more research than all the other candidates, or at least as much research. So we look at we look at company websites, we look at careers pages, but for bonus points, press releases. Have a look through the annual report. Now, an annual report can be 200 or 300 pages long. I'm not saying you need to read all of it, but if you can show an interview that you read something in the annual report, or maybe you ask a question, hey, I saw this in the annual report, I read this, or I saw this statistic, I found this article online about you. If you can draw that type of information into your interview, the interviewer is sitting there thinking, wow, this person's read our annual report. They must be so keen to work for us. I love it when I interview a candidate and they ask me a question about the company and I don't know the answer. Or they can tell me something about the company that I don't know. I am very, very impressed. So this is probably my greatest tip, to be honest, is that you can get the job. You can actually get a job based on the amount of research you do into a company and into the industry. Show what research you've done, show your passion for the company, show your enthusiasm for the industry, show that you're not just going to be an employee who comes in and does their job, but you're actually going to add some value because you're super, super passionate. So show what you know about the company and industry. Another point there, industry news, websites and groups. Going to share with you a little example. I do bang on a lot about research. As I said, this I think is the most important point. So what's with all the research, James? Well, here's a LinkedIn post from Stefan Wheelak, who's a well-known recruiter in Melbourne for a software company called Explore. And this is something he posted on LinkedIn, and I want to read it out to you because it really makes my point. I'm looking at my presentation screen on the side here. Stefan says, credentials on your resume will get you that first interview, but it's not the key to your next position. Looking at the people we recently hired or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with their understanding of the business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet not all of them were exactly what we were looking for. On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper, but when I spoke with her, she said she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only research a company once she lands an on-site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though, if you haven't spent any time researching a company, you are missing the mark. I understand that doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it will pay off. However, that's exactly what other applicants do to get the job, and they're the ones that you compete with right from the beginning of your application. So don't approach your job application thinking this is good enough. Approach your job application saying this needs to be the best, because it's a competitive process. I'm competing with 10, 50, 100, 200, 500 people. My application can't be just good enough. It needs to be the best. Putting in a lot of research and showing you've done your research is a great way to stand out. All right, research the actual recruitment process when you're looking for work. Try to get an understanding. If you're going to be asked to take a test, particularly if it's a psychometric test, guess what? You can probably Google how to perform well in that test. So get an understanding. What assessments will you be asked to complete? You might turn up to an interview and they might say, this is a 3-hour assessment and we're going to ask you to do 2 or 3 things. And you might think, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I don't feel prepared for this at all. So ask, find out in advance. Yes, I'd love to come in for the interview. What will happen on the day? What assessments might I be asked to complete? You can then go away, practice, and understand how to perform well. What do previous candidates have to say? There's a lot of websites now that actually review what you need to do at interview with a particular company, or they talk about the questions you're asked. What do previous candidates actually have to say about this company's interview process? So tip number 6 is probably the most basic one, and it's probably the one that most people know, and it's the one that most people certainly do not do. Practice your interview technique. So what do I mean by that? Well, go and print out some interview questions. You can find them on your candidate coaching platform. We've got lots. You can just Google interview questions for nurses or for receptionists or for data engineers. You can print them out, go and then give them to a friend or a family member. Half the country's in lockdown at the moment, so we've got plenty of time. Ask them to read those questions to you and pretend it's an interview. You will actually be surprised probably what you get stuck on. Whatever you get stuck on is what you need to go and work on. But like anything, your technique is not going to get better unless you practice. I would love to go and play golf this weekend and shoot 72, but I haven't played golf for ages, so I'd probably shoot 110. However, if I played golf once a week for the next 4 months, I might shoot 95. The only reason I've got better is because I've practiced. It sounds silly. I feel like I shouldn't need to say this, but not enough candidates practice their interview technique, partly because they just think, I don't know how to do it well. Go and watch our episodes this week and last week from interview technique, and that will help you improve as well. But practice your interview technique. All right, question here, and I'd love for you to type your answer in the comments box for me. Type your answer in here. Who would you rather work with? Somebody likable or somebody that you do not like? It sounds like a silly question. It is a silly question. As I can see the responses coming through already, is likable. Of course, we want to work with someone that is likable. So remember this when you're going for a job. A lot of the time, the person that you're speaking to, and often the person that's going to sit down and meet with you face to face, is looking at you and thinking, do I want to work with this person? The job that you're going for might be sitting next to the person that you're interviewing. They might be sitting next to you for 40 hours a week. So guess what? Even if they don't consciously realize it, they're actually thinking, do I want to sit next to you 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week? So we need to be likable. Be likable. It actually increases your chances of getting the job. So what are some of the things we can do to be likable? Well, again, go and look at some of our other episodes, but we can smile when we meet someone. Firm handshake. Pay them some compliments. Thank you for seeing me today. Giving off a confident vibe, but not an arrogant vibe. Looking them in the eye when we're talking to them. Being really responsive and following up very quickly if they've asked you to do something. Having a laugh. Likeable and approachable. That's exactly what someone's popped in the comments box there. Being likable, it doesn't sound scientific. It sounds maybe a bit discriminatory, to be honest, but it is true. It is human nature. You be likable, you are increasing your chances of getting the job. All right, tip number 8, ask great questions. So at the end of every interview, well, not every interview, I shouldn't say at the end of every good interview, the interviewer should say to you, do you have any questions at all for me? This is the one part of the interview where you've actually got some free space here to determine what's going to be talked about. So how do we ask great questions? Well, what we can actually do is use the research. So if you have gone and read a company report or you found some really interesting information in the news about the company and you haven't been able to mention it yet, I'd include that in a question. And it'd be as simple as, hey, I noticed in the company report that the organization talks about its future aim, to get into green energy. Can you tell me a bit more about that? I'm just making up a question here. Write your questions down in advance. So when you go to an interview, take along with you a compendium. In your compendium, you should have your resume, your cover letter, any information you've been asked to bring along. But you can write down questions in advance. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you can say, can I please refer to my questions? Write down at least 6 really good questions because some of them might actually be answered during the interview. You wouldn't ask 6, you might ask 2 or 3, but write down 6. This is your chance where you can really impress by asking really good questions, partly to show your enthusiasm, but also to show your level of research that you've done. This can really help you to stand out. All right, tip number 9, positive, responsive communication. So much of what we do in recruitment is we call somebody on the phone, we book them in for an interview, we call them back with feedback. There's a lot of to and fro in terms of communication. And actually those little micro conversations, they actually make a difference. So answering the phone in a positive and professional manner is important. If you don't have a voicemail, go and get one. You have to have a voicemail when you're looking for work. If you don't have a voicemail, you're unprofessional. I'm sorry, but that is my first impression of you, is that you're unprofessional if you don't have a voicemail. Get a voicemail. Answer the phone in a positive and professional manner. Show interest in the person that you're meeting. So when I meet with someone, I've got a very public LinkedIn profile. I love it when they say, hey, James, I checked out your LinkedIn profile. I really like the article that you wrote recently on having a great resume. Ask the person about their role. What do they like about working in the company? Show some interest in the person that you are meeting. It's positive communication. Ask for feedback. Actually say, hey, thanks for meeting with me today. Is there any chance you can give me any feedback on my performance? If you ask it in that nice, friendly, unthreatening way, you will probably get some feedback. Even if you don't, though, what you're saying is, I'm open to feedback. I like feedback. It really helps. Have a thankful attitude. I absolutely love it when somebody just says at the end, when we're shaking hands to say goodbye, hey, James, thanks for taking the time to seeing me today. It's just one line, but it shows this person is thankful. Likewise with the follow-up email within 24 hours. Again, hey, James, thanks for meeting with me today. The role sounds really interesting. I'll look forward to hearing back from you. Positive, responsive communication. It makes more of a difference than you think. And our final tip number 10, the last one, drum roll please, is missing out on a job isn't the end of the world. It's not. It is not the end of the world. And I say this particularly to graduates because they've worked so hard in their study, and then if they don't get the graduate job they've been dreaming about for 3 or 4 years, they think it's the end of the world, but it's not. It is not. Go back and look, why did I miss out on this job? You might be able to get some feedback that you can work on, or guess what? There might just be candidates who had better skills, better for qualifications, or they interviewed better. Missing out on a job is not the end of the world. All right, so our next workshop. Here today we are at Job Hunting Tips in a Competitive Market. Tuesday next week we are running a special session just for graduates. So for those of you who are looking for graduate work, come along next Tuesday. There's still going to be relevant tips in next week's session for everybody. So you can still join even if you're not looking for graduate work, but we've got some particular techniques there that we recommend graduates use. And then on Thursday next week at the same time back here is our Job Seeker Masterclass. This is our longest workshop. Sometimes it goes for 2 hours. We go through pretty much everything we've been through that you can see on your screen there over the last month, over the first 7 workshops, we touch on it again. So be back here Tuesday at 10 or Thursday at 10. But if you're still wanting more assistance, let me remind you of everything that's available on your candidate coaching platform. So we've got 12 video episodes that you can watch, resume and cover letter templates to download, interview questions that you can download. We talked about that before. Download these questions, go and practice. We've got practice online tests. You can take an online assessment today and go and get your own results. We've got checklists to help you prepare for every step of the way. There's articles that you can read if you prefer to read an article or a blog over a video. We've got advice for executive job seekers. So if you're in an executive point of your career, we've got a whole page of resources there specific for you just to look at. We've also got mental health support, and I'm going to share a video with you today in conclusion around the fact that many people struggle with their mental health when they're looking for work. That is completely normal. We want to share some resources with you and hope that it makes a difference. And obviously you can learn more about our live upcoming workshops, and all of this is available for you for free. But before you go, there's one thing I would love for you to do for me, and I'm going to drop these links into the chat box now. I love it when I get feedback. So I would love to hear from you what you thought of today's session. Please it is literally a 2-minute survey. Take 2 minutes to click on the link that you see in the chat box now to give me some feedback, or if you're watching it on our Facebook Live page, please type that URL in, surveymonkey.com/r/candidate coach. Let us know what you thought of today. And also one of the questions I ask is, what do you want to know more about? And we build our future workshops off the feedback we receive. Also, love it if you could follow us on our LinkedIn page. Follow us on LinkedIn because we post lots of content there, lots of additional bits and pieces that can really help you when you are looking for work. Alrighty, we're going to conclude today with a video. So as I mentioned, just a video here that we love to show and we love to share with everybody. So thanks for joining in today. It's been great to have you with us. I'll be back here on Tuesday next week. And a reminder that you can watch a replay of this workshop on our YouTube channel. Bye-bye for now from the Candidate Coach.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. A lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and wellbeing might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.